All right, here's the first episode of the Conscious Creative Tribe podcast. That's the tentative name. I think I'm going to go with that. I don't even fully know the name I'm going to use, but I wanted to do this for so long. And for the first episode to kick this off, I got my good friend Cole King here, who's also producing this podcast.
What's up?
How you doing today?
I'm good. Just
Nice.
hanging out.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk to you first because you're someone who I always like talking about creativity and music and pretty much everything creative and idea-wise with. So that's what I want to focus on today and for the first episode of this.
Okay. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Right up my alley.
Yeah. So you've been, tell everyone, whoever's listening to this for this first episode, your journey of creativity and how you got involved with music and writing and all that.
Well, I was always really into music growing up, regardless. I grew up, my dad, as you know, my dad was a musician. I grew up with a grand piano in my house. My dad played the guitar, he played the drums, and, we had a guitar, we had a drum set in the house. So I always kind of dabbled with everything. But it wasn't until I was a teenager when you actually moved to the neighborhood, and we had that karaoke machine. It was my little sister's karaoke machine, and we just co-opted that. Pretty much just stole the karaoke machine, and LimeWire was big at the time. I was into just downloading instrumentals for some reason. I didn't even know I wanted to rap yet. I didn't even know I wanted to make beats yet. But for some reason, I was just into the beats, and I was into Kanye, and I was into Dilla, and I was into, DJ Premier, everyone. I was just finding out who are these guys that are making these beats. I need to just listen to these beats. And then it turned into, just nights of us hanging out, playing video games or whatever, starting to freestyle. And then we realized with the karaoke machine, you could use the microphone and record onto a cassette tape with the burnt CD of instrumentals. And the first time I wrote down some lyrics and I heard it back, I heard my voice back, I was hooked. That completely changed everything. It changed my whole direction in life too.
Yeah, that was your pivot.
That was my pivot. At that point, I thought I was gonna be a soccer player. That was everything. That was the dream, and I envisioned myself doing that. And I would tell everyone I'm gonna be the best soccer player in the world. Until it wasn't even a decision. I need to be wise now and think about my future. I could have a better career in music than being an athlete. It wasn't even anything like that. It was just I was so passionate about soccer, but then it was gone. It was all of a sudden music was everything. And it really was. I mean, you saw it, I was all about it, and I had to do whatever I could to learn how to make beats and to learn how to record myself. And I was skipping school in high school. I had my shitty car, and I was driving home. I was skipping classes and driving home when I knew my parents weren't going to be home so that I could make songs. I wasn't skipping school to go and smoke weed or to go party. I was going to make songs. And it was still rebellious to me too, It was still I'm breaking the rules. I used to stay up at night. My dad wouldn't let me use the computer. He would only let me use it for a certain amount of time. And when I knew he would go to bed, I'd pretend like I was going to bed, and I'd sneak down and I would go and make beats on his computer. It was just because I had to do it. I don't even know how to explain it. And so then that just, like anything, you put in your time and you put in your work, that just has evolved into bigger and bigger things. And, now I'm here in my studio and I'm still doing it. And I still have that same drive. I just got a guitar last Friday. Every day I've been spending at least a half hour a day just trying to learn chords and learning how to play it. It's a lot harder than I ever remember it trying to be before. But, I'm getting better, and I know that I'm going to get better. It's that same that desire, that like need. I need to do it, you know. So that's where I'm at now.
That passion, it's so crucial. And I love whenever I find that with things like when you get really excited about something, so you just make time for it. Like skipping school to do that it's the perfect example. Like that's when you know you're meant to do something, or it's your passion or a part of your purpose in life, when you're skipping what people tell you to do and instead doing that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and it's a weird psychology to it too, like skipping what people tell you you're supposed to do, right? Like, because I was a good artist too. I was a good visual artist. I was a painter and I was a drawer, and I was always good at it, and I liked it a lot. And then once I got into like the good art classes in high school, and I was being told, and I was getting graded, you know, then I was like, fuck this. Like, I don't like art anymore, you know? I was like, and it was just the psychology of that. And I haven't even, it's sad, you know, I don't draw or I don't paint, and I haven't done it in like 10 years. I probably should go back at some point, but that's like that weird psychology thing. So I was skipping class, you know, because I wanted to make music. I thought it was this like, wow, it was like this rebellious thing to do, especially being a white rapper at that time, you know, from where we lived in Saratoga. No one was doing it. And I wasn't even really telling too many of our friends that I was doing it. You know, it was just a small circle that knew. I was kind of embarrassed. When, like, I remember being at soccer practice, and I was playing. I was in 10th grade. I was on the varsity team, so it was like all the upperclassmen. And I was kind of an outcast because I was a younger guy anyway. And I was always kind of an outcast anyway. But they like found my rhyme book, and they were like reading it and kind of like making fun of me. But a couple guys were like, these were like the captains of the team. They were like, yo, like, this is good. This is really good. Like, this is cool that you're doing this, man. Like, keep it up. And I was like, okay, yeah. So, yeah, I wasn't really telling too many people that I was doing it regardless. It's not like today, like, you know, every kid's doing it, or every kid thinks that they can do it.
Yeah. Back then it wasn't something to be proud of, because no one did it at all. And like, you were one of the first people to actually like have the balls to do that kind of stuff. It was completely new territory, especially for like white suburban kids. Like no one even thought about doing it. Like, it was always music for a certain demographic and in urban areas. Yeah. And you were one of the first people who I came across that actually pursued that, even though society said you couldn't do it. Even a lot of people in the hip hop community would have shunned that. Except for the open-minded people.
They did, for sure. I used to go down to New York and do showcases when I was in high school. Of course, the only white guy there, let alone the only person from outside of the city. And it was rough, the first couple. But I still kept at it. You know, a lot of people, I've seen so many people come and go, where they get a little bit of, they have to go through a couple rough patches. And they're like, oh, this isn't as easy as I saw that it would be. You know, like, I see them, they make it look easy. It's not. There's a lot of stuff that you have to do behind the scenes. There's a lot of little things that you have to go through. You have to sacrifice, you know, a lot of your regular life, but you also have to sacrifice your ego a lot.
Mm-hmm. And that comes down to like intrinsic motivation instead of extrinsic motivation.
There has to be, you have to love it. There has to be a driving force behind what you're doing. If there's no driving force, what are you doing it for? Yeah.
Or if you're just doing it for notoriety or fame or money or something like that.
It's got to be a driving force.
Yeah. As soon as you hit those rough patches, if you're motivated by that external stuff, you're going to give up. But if you have that deep desire, that intrinsic motivation, that strong why, you're going to persevere and make it happen regardless. Like, I forgot who said it. It was like Friedrich Nietzsche or something like that. He's like, a man with a strong why can withstand any how. So when you have that strong reason, you're going to keep going no matter what.
Yeah, I believe that. And that can be applied to anything.
Yeah,
you
I've
know?
noticed that with myself, with blogging, writing, all that.
Yeah.
Like, it's been rough. Like, I haven't seen any fruits of my labor really at all, but I
Yeah.
keep going because I love doing it. I have that fire, that passion to keep doing it on a regular basis, and I'll never stop.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny. I was talking to kind of along the same lines. I was talking to somebody about kids now that grew up with the internet. You know, not millennials, whatever is generation Y or whatever they are now.
Hmm.
Um, they're they're great entrepreneurs. They have an entrepreneur spirit. That's just who they are, and they have a marketing mind. They're very good at marketing naturally because they've grown up with social media. You know, they grow up. The numbers they get their numbers up on social media. They know how to do it. That's just that's just part of their nature. That's a part of their environment that they grew up in. So eventually they learn how to apply that to, like, I got this idea, you know, I want to sell backpacks, like whatever. Come up with how to make the backpacks, or someone that can make the backpacks. They know how to market that shit. You know, it's like, that's why these kids are getting hired right out of college as to be the marketing team, to be the social media team,
or starting their own businesses right out of college, or skipping college to start their own business.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, luckily for them that they are growing up in that generation where we were kind of the first to be like, oh, like shit's about to hit the fan, you know, with college and with loans and stuff. And we kind of were like, you know, putting the word out, you know, screaming from the top of the mountains, like, no, like, this isn't good. Sally Mae it's a Ponzi scheme. This shit is fucked up.
Yeah.
And then
everything I was told was wrong.
Everything was wrong. My advisors, my high school advisors, they're supposed to be advisors for me.
Yeah.
They're part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Their job is to tell us, take these loans, right?
Yeah, just repeat.
These kids they're hopefully, you know, the college system, the college loan system is so big and powerful. Hopefully they don't pivot and find a way to keep convincing these kids to take these loans. But I think that, you know, there's a lot of potential for kids in the U.S. right now that grew up with Instagram, that grew up with Twitter, and like, look at all the stuff that they're doing.
Yeah.
Kids selling sneakers, you know, becoming millionaires. Kids starting their own fashion lines. It's pretty inspiring.
Yeah. The opportunity is ridiculous these days. I think we live in a time where if you have access to the internet, you have more opportunity than anyone who has ever existed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a double-edged sword too, because we have this opportunity, this access to information, and you could either use that to build the life of your dreams and bring your ideas to fruition, or you can drown in it. Like, so many people just get distracted by it. They get distracted by their news feeds. They don't really have a purpose. I guess that's the differentiating factor. If you have a purpose, you want to bring something to life, you want to pursue something, you want to master something, you want to build a business, that's going to drive you to actually use that technology to benefit yourself and others instead of being a slave to it.
Yeah.
And that goes back into purpose. Like, you have a clear, definitive purpose with your creative endeavors and your music. So you actually have that as your North Star to guide you instead of getting, like, lost in that endless distraction, you know?
Right. Yeah. You know, that's right. And I can apply that logic to, you know, other side hustles that I've had. There's even something I'm working on right now. It's a big project and it could really work out. I'm working on it with my business partner, Mike Murphy, who's also my manager in the music field. But, you know, along the way, you know, I've taught myself these other skills that I've had to learn, you know, to supplement myself being an independent musician. And there's skills that, you know, you just have to learn if you're going to be an entrepreneur regardless. But an independent musician, you should learn graphic design, social media, marketing, all that stuff. So I'm doing some graphic design and a whole marketing campaign for a local company around here. And I'm kind of like I know that what I'm creating is good. and I'm really proud of it. But I it's kind of like blurry where it's gonna go, as to where it's gonna go. So sometimes it's hard for me to get motivated to do it, to wake up and be like, okay, like I got to spend like 4 hours today working on this stuff. But one, I'm not getting paid at the end of the day or the end of the week. It's going to be a nice little payoff, but I haven't done it before too. So it's kind of blurry, as opposed to with the music, I know why I'm doing it, like I'm just, even when I made my first project, it wasn't like, oh, I've never done this before. So I know why I'm doing it. It's because I love it. It's because I have to do it. So that'll just keep you going. And I know that I'm lucky that I have that. A lot of people that start their own business and even become successful, it may not be like their passion that they're going for. They just have a knack, and they have a competitive spirit, and they just, that's their driving force. They want to beat the next guy. They want to be better. So, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely lucky that I have that passion and the love for the music thing.
Yeah. Well, you got clear on that.
Yeah.
Like early on, you got clear about what you wanted to do and your passions and your purpose. And people like your dad supported that process too. So that's awesome that you not only had that opportunity, but you snatched that opportunity.
Yeah.
Because it's both the environment and then what you do. Like so many people, everyone's got strengths in different areas. They all have different opportunities in different kinds of ways, but not many people actually take advantage of what they're given. Right. And you definitely did that. You figured out that you're passionate about music, hip hop, writing, and you got involved in it, and you dove in. Like really, you dove in.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's really about taking chances too, and just being like not afraid. Like being afraid is natural, and you should be afraid. If you're not afraid, then you may be a sociopath,
Yeah.
But just really taking chances, taking risks. It may not work out, but who cares?
Yeah, and you learn from it too.
Yeah.
If you try something that's out of your comfort zone and you're scared, but you take action anyway, and it doesn't work out like you thought it would, that's such a good learning experience.
Right.
Because you don't learn anything if you don't take any risks.
Yeah. And really, weigh out the pros and the cons before you're going into something and you're taking a leap. If it works, how much better is your life going to be than it is right now? Or if you just don't go for it, why would you not? If you have something that you could, it's like, if you can jump and make it over the edge, how much better is it on that side? If the worst thing that could happen is you're not going to fall and die, you're just going to bounce back to where you were. That's essentially what we're talking about right now. Going on your own and, sticking your neck out and taking a chance, trying to do something on your own.
Yeah. That's a great point. That's a really great point, because most of the time, the worst case scenario isn't even that bad, and it's probably going to be the same thing as the rest of your life has always been.
You could just go back.
Yeah.
You could always just get a job, You can't always, be young and go for what you want to do. So, why not? But that's what no one's being taught, because they can't teach kids that. You can't.
Yeah, it disrupts every system. Yeah. That's why it causes disruption. Yeah. But that's good for the individual and freedom in general, but it's not good if you have control systems that you got to maintain,
Yep. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of all this stuff, of all these artists, musicians, entrepreneurs, everyone going out and doing their own thing, and even making a living, or at least part of a living, doing their own thing. It disrupts things. It creates so much change. And that's really what's accelerating the progress of humanity. Like, entrepreneurs and artists are the ones that are helping humanity evolve. Like, for example, Elon Musk is helping out in Puerto Rico when the U.S. government's not. Like, that's a prime example.
Yeah. so he's one of the less than 1% really good, that are helping mankind evolve in a better direction. It's almost like we have to devolve from where we have been evolving to what we have been evolving toward. I was watching George Carlin last night. Remember him? He was a comedian, big inspiration for like Louis C.K. and a bit of a nihilist. But he was saying, he was talking about like, I forget what his whole joke was and what his point was, but part of it was like not being motivated. It was a joke, like he wasn't serious, but he's like, not being motivated, isn't such a bad thing. He's like, as far as I'm concerned, the people that are just sitting on their ass and watching TV, from half of the day, they're not the people that are fucking up the world right now. He's like, the people that are really fucking things up are like Christians and the politicians and I forget who else he says, but he's like, those people are very motivated, like, I'm not so sure we want those people to be the motivated people either. Like, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't agree with the couch potato, although he is right. They're not really fucking up the world, but we need more people to be motivated to, like Elon Musk, evolve it just
in another direction.
Because I do have that thought. How much more do we really need to evolve?
In terms of this paradigm, no. In terms of the consumerism, the greed,
even
the competition.
Even the technology.
Yeah.
How much better does it need to be? How much better does our phone need to be? We don't need robots, man.
Yeah. It just needs to be different. It needs to be different.
Yeah. It needs to be used. I mean, the environment, we're starting a whole different conversation, but it needs to be used to help the environment.
Yeah.
Protect us from natural disaster.
Yeah. And create more freedom for people instead of more slavery.
And maybe for exploration. To find another place that we could live. Why wouldn't our technology be used towards that?
Yeah.
How much better does our fucking phone need to be?
Yeah. It should be used to actually help people.
Unless I'm going to be able to use the phone as transportation, like
you never
as
know.
Like a hoverboard or something, like just get on my phone or like put it somehow I can like fly by like attaching it to something, it doesn't need to get that much better. We got to just kind of switch it a little bit. Yeah. And Elon Musk is trying to do that. He's really trying. He's into exploration. SpaceX. He's dope, man. I really like that guy.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. And the thing about us humans is we're always growing and evolving and moving forward. So we just really need to evaluate in what direction we're going. And I think that's what you're talking about. And a realization that I had over the last year or so, I call it Slacktivism. So I think that a big part in changing the world is actually doing less and contributing less to the fucked upness.
Yeah.
So consuming less, harming other people less, screwing other people over less, being less of an asshole to people, all that stuff. It's about kind of opting out and not complying with all that stuff that's really fucking up the world. Mm-hmm. So just stopping doing a lot of that. Yeah. And if people stop doing most of that stuff that's fucking everything up, it kind of takes care of itself from there, you know? And then maybe we could start moving in a more positive direction. And we're always going to be developing technology. That's just how humans roll. So we might as well evaluate where we're at, slow down, evaluate where we're at, and start building technology that helps people, you said.
That's what successful businesses do. Once you get so successful, you can't keep doing the same thing. That's when it's kind of like, it's not exciting anymore, right? The exciting part is the come up. That's the rise. Mm-hmm. That's fun. But then you hit this plateau. At a certain point, a smart CEO, excuse me, is going to say, all right, now we're not going for anyone. People are coming for us. Let's sit back for a little bit. Smart musicians do this a lot. Jay-Z. He'll disappear for a little bit. He watches what's going on. Okay, and then he plots, here's how we're going to come. And then boom. And he has a whole plan for the next, whatever, 4 quarters. Then I'll take a step back again. Reassess. Yeah, why not just use that humankind, at least on a micro level of mankind as a country. That's what the country leaders should do. Let's take a step back for a second.
Yeah. Well,
This
even
isn't really working.
even beyond that, because I like questioning fundamental stuff. So I'm saying individuals should step back and question whether we need leaders in the first place. You know, why can't we be our own leaders? We have the potential to do that. You know, if entrepreneurs are the ones that are helping out people from natural disasters and things like that. Do we really need these guys who we've never met to tell us what to do based upon writings on paper? Right. I don't think we need that stuff these days. We've outgrown that stuff too.
Well, we are tribal at nature.
Yeah.
You know, I think that it is good, you know, and it's a natural part of who we are, what we are. So, but it needs to just be localized. But then, you know, what comes with that is just fighting, you know. Then you're gonna fight with other tribes. You fight with other, you know. It always happens. It's always happened. It always is going to happen. Unfortunately,
maybe
with
maybe
mankind. Not. I mean, it's always happened. So
well, as far as we are aware of, as far as the his story that we're aware of, and the fighting happens because of two things. The external reason is resources, because there's always finite resources that we've used, but now we're seeing the potential to actually have not finite, infinite resources from once they're set up, like solar energy, and there's all these alternative energy sources that actually change the whole paradigm of resources. So that's the external factor, and the internal factor is everyone is living in their ego. And we're humans, we're always going to have an ego, but when the ego runs the show, that's when you attack other people, screw other people over, and fight and things like that. But if you're simply aware of the ego, and if we do that on a collective level, and this is a big part of what I do with all the information that I put out, if you're aware of that, and then we take actions to have abundance in terms of energy and resources, then there's no need to fight or quarrel over anything, you know?
Right. Yeah, ego, resources, I mean, for sure.
And I'm an idealist like that too. So I always see like that on the horizon, but it's like how the fuck do we get there? Yeah. You know? So that's the problem.
Mean, that goes back to what we were saying before with it's hard for you to see how you're going to get there or what it's going to become. So you're like, why, you know, you have to have some sort of driving force behind. You just have to, you got to have faith or something. That might be your driving force.
Yeah.
You know, there's just love for it. There's passion, there's faith, there's competitiveness. Whatever behind what you're doing, there has to be why. Why are you doing it?
And that's an awesome question. And like, it's hard for me. I'm just going to answer this because I'm thinking about it now. Like, it's hard for me to describe exactly what my why is, but I'm like working towards creating that type of world. Mm-hmm. And I think a big aspect of that is changing the state of consciousness. So like inspiring that spark of whatever you want to call it, divinity or something within people that helps people like be aware of their egos, actually want to help and be of service to people and share. And also like that creativity. That's why I'm doing this podcast. I want to spark that creativity within people, because there's people smarter than you or I who have the potential to create these world-changing technologies or energy sources or even amazing artistry. Like who knows what we could spark and create if people are aware of their own power.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know you say it all the time, but it has to start with you. And you have to be harder on yourself than you are. You have to be, you know. You can't create any type of change unless you really change yourself. And you got to be the golden boy for whatever you really are preaching. So And then what can you really do besides that? That's what you have the most control over. So once you do that, then you can kind of be a beacon. Then you can shine your light.
Yeah,
And maybe enlighten everyone else.
Be the light and enlighten.
Yeah.
Be a lighthouse. And I'm gonna say this because I heard this story last week at the workshop I helped organize. It's a really awesome story that I've never heard before, and it gave me like that aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a story of the difference between a tugboat and a lighthouse. So a tugboat, they both pretty much exist to save ships in different ways. So a tugboat, what it does is it goes out there. It expends all of its energy to go out and get a ship and tug it back. And it keeps doing that like tens of thousands of times. And then it dies after a few years because it expends so much energy. You have to constantly change the parts and all that. Mm-hmm. But then you have a lighthouse. And a lighthouse, all it does, it's in one place. It's holding its space down and it's just shining.
Yeah.
That's all it's doing. It's just shining its light. And because it's shining its light, the ships can find their way to wherever they're going to get, whether it's to land or where they're going. So it helps guide others.
The metaphor is like the tugboat. Just don't try so hard.
Yeah, and it's unsustainable.
Just be there in the dead fucking center looking around, but shining your light.
Yeah.
You know, that's like the lyric that I had recently. It was like, they like to tell you that you should be humble. Just walk your path. You focus too much on your foot, you stumble. Like, that's a sign you ain't really supposed to try. Instead, we look up to the sky and we ask God, why? Yeah, just fix yourself within. That's all you can really control. And then don't try so hard. Just be you. Be an inspiration. That's probably more powerful instead of being preachy. Because then you're going to get more resistance naturally. That's the first thing that's going to come. And then you're going to get the people that are looking at you kind of side-eyed, that you're kind of getting to them. I mean, you're going to get the followers that aren't really thinking critically, but they're just like, oh, I kind of like what he's saying instead better than what I've been hearing. So, yeah. And then you're going to get the people that, like, this guy's weird. And they're just in the middle, always in the middle. Or you could just be that dude, that you're just you, and that's cool. And people see that. And then maybe it inspires them to be like you, or it inspires them to be themselves, you know.
Which is more powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's all about leading by example, and we see this with like parents and children. Like, children don't really listen to what their parents say. They observe what their parents do, and that's how they learn. So it's that whole thing of just leading by example. And another point that you hit on too is like the best teachers just basically let everyone else know that they're their own teacher. You know, so the best gurus introduce you to your inner guru, essentially. Sure. Instead of saying, listen to me, it's like, no, like, listen to yourself, like, be you. And that's what the best teachers do.
The student becomes the teacher. That's always the dopest thing.
Yeah.
And it's not, it doesn't mean that the student all of a sudden is teaching the teacher. It's just that everyone, you know, once you become yourself, then you're a teacher.
Yep.
You know, that's the secret to it.
That's so true. So true. Yeah. Authenticity is so crucial. Yeah. And people could smell that too. When you're authentic, people love it, and it inspires other people to be authentic.
Yeah. I mean, it took me until, you know, my mid-20s I wrote something down, and I haven't forgot it since. I don't really go back and look at it, but I've just never forgot it. I had just, you know, this moment, and it was at a certain point, it's going to be convenient to be yourself. You might as well start now.
Damn.
It's something that I wish I knew when I was 17, 18, you know. I mean, everything happens for a reason, and I was acting the way that I acted to learn, to have that moment, to get to that moment. But that's something that everyone should know, you know. you're cool already. You know, if you're trying to do something like someone else, you're trying to act the way that you think that people think you should act so that you get their approval.
Mm-hmm.
That's not cool, and people can sense that. They can pick that up. But you know, the people that are cool, they're doing themselves. They're being themselves, right?
Yeah.
So it's convenient. It's gonna work out for you. So you might as well just start being you. You know.
Yeah.
So
You just made me think, like, what is the definition of cool? Like, it's got to be unique to every person. Like, being cool doesn't necessarily mean dressing a certain way, having a suit and tie, and it doesn't necessarily mean being like a jazz musician. It's like, it's your own authenticity. It's when you're really fully in your authenticity and not trying to be anyone else. I guess that's the definition of cool that I would say.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's when something new comes along and then they become the hot thing and everyone starts copying that now.
Yeah.
You know, it's because they were 100% themselves. You know, shit. I had another thing too that I forgot. I had another thing I was going to say about that, but I forgot.
Yeah. Be yourself.
Yep.
And yeah, things just go wrong and get out of hand when people just start copying others. When you basically you shove your authenticity and shove your genuine self down so you could pretend to be like other people, and that's an insult to yourself, and it's an insult to other people, because when other people are authentic, it's a lot of people do it, maybe even not consciously, to inspire that authenticity within other people. So when you copy them, you're doing a disservice to everyone. It's
an insult to yourself. Yeah, you're doing a disservice to everyone, and you're doing a disservice to everyone who's been a part of your path, that's been a part of your journey. If you're not using your experience to create your wisdom, you know what I mean? Your wisdom is your wisdom. No one else has your wisdom. No one else has your experience. No one else is who you are.
Yeah.
Right? So you're doing a disservice to yourself and to everyone if you're not 100% being yourself. You know?
Yeah.
Ah, fuck, man. I had a really good point, and I'm waiting for it to come back. It's just not hitting.
Uniqueness. Like, no one is ever going to be exactly 100% like you. No one's ever going to be exactly 100% like me, ever. Not in history, his story, and not in the future. It's just completely unique, and that's fucking crazy to think about.
Yeah.
It's like utterly unique. Even if you believe in reincarnation, even if you think we're going through the same life over and over again, it's never going to be this exact moment right now.
In a perfect world, I tweeted this one time. In a perfect world, everyone will have their own perfect religion, like their own perfect ideology the day that they die. You know, like their best version of, you know, and everyone's got their own thing. That's in a perfect world. And your ideology is going to be the shit by the time you die. You know, as long as you're just like not, you believe this one set thing your whole life, ever since you were a kid, you believe the Bible. You know, you're a Catholic and you're a strict Catholic, and you've always believed it, and you're never going to change. You never question it, even though you've questioned it. Like, come on. I mean, you know.
Everyone does.
A 90-year-old that's a conservative Jew, you don't think that they've had any questions about what they believe?
Everyone, but they just stuff it
right
in the background.
In a perfect world, everyone has their own, and they're not trying to get everyone to believe. Oh yeah, but then this was the second part of the tweet. But they have constructive conversations with other people about their beliefs. But I'm not telling you that I'm right and you're wrong, but this is just, let's just talk about it. Why do you think that's, you know, that's in a perfect utopian society? That'd be dope. That'd be so dope. And instead of church, it's just
life.
no. Like you could have like secular buildings, but you just go and you just. There's no one person that's getting up and he's the preacher. Everyone's just talking it out.
Yeah, it's all conversations.
Yeah. That'd be dope. I would go to church. I'd go every Sunday.
Well, church would be, in that case, like church would just be regular day-to-day life, you know?
It'd be like the bar.
Yeah.
That's church.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it is.
Or it'd be like what we're doing now.
Yeah.
You
this
know?
is church.
It really is.
Yep.
One of my favorite rappers, Pep Love, he has a line like, as soon as I wake and take a breath, I'm in service. So saying that like his life, his existence is religious. Like you don't have to be in a certain church or religious establishment to be one with God or the divine or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad said something along those lines. I remember when I was a kid, because he never went to church. I was raised Catholic, and I went to church with my brother and my 3 sisters and my mom every Sunday. And my dad never went. He went on like Christmas and Easter, and when there was like baptisms and, you know, confirmation.
Again, taking a step back and observing instead of just going full bore into something that's not really doing the best for the world. Yep.
And he bounced around too. Like I remember for a little bit, like he went to a few different churches for a while, and he's just he was always just like disgusted with every single part, every single one of them. And he was just finally like, he told me that one night, something along those lines, like I am, like every day is church, you know, like I know I have my beliefs. I'm living it. I don't need to go there to validate it, you know?
Yeah, that's so true. And it comes down to like externalizing your power, and also like we keep coming back to like authenticity, like being yourself. Like you don't have to follow like what some guy says or follow a certain book. And I also wanted to make another point regarding everyone having their own unique belief system. I think that would also make things more fluid too, because I think that having a fluid, changing belief system that's not rigid. Like I think if you can pinpoint your beliefs, you're wrong. You know, if your beliefs are here and you're like, here they are. Definitely, it's this.
Even though I don't really
wrong.
know.
Yeah.
You know, like,
so you're allowing room for it to grow and evolve, and you're not putting a specific label on it, and you're not boxing it in. Because how the fuck are you gonna box in God or divinity or whatever you want to call it? How are you gonna fucking put that in a box? It's continuously growing, evolving, and it's beyond this reality that we can perceive. So like you can't, it's never going to be this rigid thing that you can hold and be like, that's it.
Unless we really do find out, get to the beginning, you know, if there is.
There isn't.
You know,
there is no beginning and there is no end. It's the, like the Taoists say, the ever-changing changelessness, like it's the way. All that kind of stuff. Yeah,
it just is.
It just is, and it just keeps on keeping on.
That's so fucking dope. It's, you know, I love Taoism, and if I were to subscribe to any ideology, it's Taoism. That's the closest for me. But it's almost kind of a cop-out too, because it's so easy. It's so simple. It is, man. And everything that happens for a reason, because it happens.
Yeah,
it's happening. It's that simple.
Yeah,
and you don't have to overthink it. Don't make it so fucking hard. And then it's like, you can't. I mean, there's good and the bad. There's yin and yang. You can't have good. There's peaks. There's valleys. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have. There's no such thing as a peak without the valley. There's no such thing as good. There's no bad. There's no such, you know, you don't appreciate sunshine if there's no rain. It's all that simple shit. But it's right. It applies to so many things.
Everything.
Everything.
That's why we're in this reality. Like to learn through contrast like that. Yep. Like to experience the challenges, to experience the fear so we know what love is. Mm-hmm. And find balance through that too, and it's a learning experience.
That's the goal. Find your balance.
Yeah, your own unique balance, I guess.
Your own balance, yeah. Some people like a little bit of, like, some fear. You know, they like, so they find your balance.
Yeah.
Add some of that into your, if that's what you want,
Yeah.
but balance it out. You know?
Yeah, like some people like to find their balance by going like this, you know, close to the middle the whole time. I like doing that. I like to be like, oh, I hit that extreme, come back this way. Oh, I hit that extreme.
And then there's people.
Yeah. Or they get forced into finding that balance
Right.
because they go too far.
That's the way it is in the beginning.
Yeah.
Until you can find a balance. If you're so fortunate to do so.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is right now for us.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, just getting tossed around.
Yeah. Work it out. So we're at 44.
I think that's a good point to end on.
I do too.
Finding your balance, and it all comes down to your unique to you balance. Like, it's all about being authentic and true to yourself.
Bong bong.
Bong bong. All right. Good first podcast.
You got any plugs?
My book, Soswick, is coming out. From the recording of this, it's tomorrow, so it's going to be November 1st, 2017. So whenever you listen to this, Soswick is going to be available on the Amazon and pretty much all over the internet. So find Soswick, Sozwyk. It's a novel that I wrote, and I poured everything I have into it, and things poured through me. So I'm really proud of this work. So go on Amazon and get Soswick and leave a review, please. All right, thanks.